Welcome to Subeezy, Subjects Made Easy. In this lecture, we will provide an overview of one of the question types on the verbal reasoning portion of the exam, Reading Comprehension. With the Reading Comprehension questions, a passage will be presented, followed by a series of questions. Reading Comprehension questions make up about 50% of the verbal reasoning questions per section. That equates to about 10 questions per section. There are two types of passages. There are short passages and long passages. Short passages will be about 150 words in length. Long passages will be about 450 words. Most passages will be short, usually only one paragraph. However, expect at least one long passage somewhere on your test. The shortest passages will be argument passages. These always only have one question that follows them. We will discuss in more detail the differences between short, long, and argument passages in the next lectures. Now let's move on to discuss the content of the passages. The passages are often purposely written on vague, unfamiliar, and/or boring topics. The focus can range anywhere from obscure physics to history. But you should know that you do not need any background information in the subject to perform well on the passage. The passages, regardless of the subject that they are written on, are designed so that anyone from any background can do well on the passage. When tackling the reading comprehension passages, you must be quick. In order to finish the section within the time limit, you should master reading passages under 4 minutes. Often, the most difficult part about the verbal reasoning section is the time constraint. To perform well, you must be quick. This skill only comes with practice. In your spare time, it is wise to practice reading newspapers, journals, etc. quickly. Most passages will discuss one of the following. 1. Uncertainty on some issue. 2. A new theory is challenging an existing or old theory. Or 3. An opinion or argument. Now let's discuss the question format. For reading comprehension, there are 3 question types. 1 is standard multiple choice. You are presented with 5 answer choices, A through E, and only one of them is correct. Be sure to read all of the possible answers. The second question type is multiple answer, multiple choice. Here you will be presented with 3 answer choices, A through C. You need to select all that apply. But note there will always be at least one correct answer. So even on these multiple answer, multiple choice problems, you may need to select just one answer, as you would for standard multiple choice. So you're never going to be stuck with a question where none of the answer choices are correct. You will always need to select at least one answer option. And it is possible that all 3 options are correct. And in that case, you need to select A, B, and C. And there is no partial credit, meaning if both answer A and B are correct, and you only answered A, you will not get credit for that question. And the third question type for reading comprehension is select passage. In these questions, you will be asked to highlight the sentence within the passage that answers the question. So now let's discuss how you should approach the reading comprehension passages. You want to be an active reader. The best approach to tackling the reading comprehension questions is to actively read. The goal is to develop a strong understanding of the passage's overall purpose. This is accomplished via keeping an open mind and positive attitude. Yes, most passages are boring and difficult. However, in order to actively engage with the passage, you should pretend to really enjoy it, even if you hate what you're reading. To be an active reader, you must shut off your mind to everything else but the passage. This is a difficult task. It is easy to be distracted while reading. Previous difficult questions may float in your mind, like you might be stuck on the question that you just read before this passage. Or you might be worried about the time remaining. Or you might be worried about your admission to grad school, etc. Being distracted is even easier when the passage is boring. They do this intentionally. The key is to practice being mindful. That is, be here in the present moment, forget the previous questions, forget about the clock, and forget that you are taking a very important exam. Instead, just focus on the only thing that matters right now. That is, understanding the passage. If you are able to hone this skill and do this, your score on reading comprehension problems will substantially increase. So now let's move on to discuss what's in the passage. First is the main point. This is the purpose of the passage, the information that the author is trying to share with the readers. While reading, continuously ask yourself, what's the point of writing this? If you are able to answer this, then that means you have successfully understood the main point of the passage, which is key to doing well on most of the questions for reading comprehension. Second is the evidence. These are examples, opinions, and other support to back up the main point. While reading, you want to ask yourself, how is the author defending the main point? And third are the implications. If the information the author presents holds true, then what is its relevance? Often the implications may not be stated. You may have to identify underlying assumptions. So while reading, you want to ask yourself, what are the consequences of this information? Most reading comprehension questions are a derivative of one of these three things. After reading a passage, if you are able to answer, what's the point of writing this? How is the author defending the main point? And what are the consequences of this information? You are likely to not have as much trouble with any of the questions that come after the passage. Now let's discuss the introduction of the passages. Often the passages will present significant information in the introduction. Many questions may be answered from understanding the introduction alone. But you must read the entire passage. Often there is a change in the author's view at the end of the passage that changes the meaning of the passage. For example, the author may present the increase in climate temperature as something negative in the first few paragraphs. But in the final paragraph, he or she explains that a rise in temperature may have allowed for life to flourish. In this example, the final paragraph is in contrast to the rest of the passage and shares the author's true view. If you only read the first few paragraphs and missed the change in view at the end, you will likely fall for trap answers on the questions. So the main point is, read everything in its entirety and watch out for changes or contrasts in view. The start of a new paragraph should signal a new topic or idea. It is wise to scribble down the main point of each paragraph in no more than 2 to 3 words. This will help when you need to search the passage to answer a question. Watch out for certain key words that signal the relationship the author is making. For example, the word likewise, this means that the paragraph will express some similarity to the previous one. The phrase, on the other hand, this means that this paragraph will contrast the previous one. And the phrase, for instance, means that this paragraph will elaborate on the previous paragraph by providing an example. You should especially look out for opinion-oriented words. Words like thankfully, unfortunately, importantly, etc. These words express the author's opinion or point of view on the topic. It is very likely you will have a question relating to what the author believes. When the author is using these opinion-oriented words, they are sharing with you his or her beliefs. So once you have finished reading the entire passage, you want to summarize the passage. You want to ask yourself, how would you explain the passage to a friend? Could you express the main point of the passage? The author's opinions? Do you remember any of the examples the author used in the passage to support his or her main point? And do you have an idea of what the implications are of the information presented in the passage? Now let's discuss complicated terms within the passage. Authors love to include long, complicated, often scientifically oriented words in the passages. These terms are meant to get you stuck thinking about the meaning or pronunciation. Do not let complicated terms get you stuck. Instead, you want to replace them with synonyms or abbreviations. Let's look at some examples. A passage describes what ornithology is and presents a new controversial technique in the field. Every time you come across the weird O word, you want to replace it with people obsessed with birds. Ornithology is the study of birds. Here's another example. A passage mentions 3 different individuals: Clementine Izo Sakura, Juliet Jean Gifford, and Edward William Jameson. They love doing this in the passages, giving you a bunch of different names and expecting you to remember who's who. To make things shorter and easier to deal with, replace the names with the initials CS, JG, and EJ. And as you're reading the passage, instead of reading out the entire name, just say CS, or just say JG, or just say EJ. So in summary, you want to actively read the passage in its entirety once. As you read, jot down 2 to 3 words for each paragraph that summarizes the point of the paragraph. Do not spend more than 5 seconds writing this. You really don't want to waste time scribbling down words to summarize the paragraphs. After reading, quickly answer in your mind, what was the main point of the passage? And what is the author's point of view, if there is one? Then go to the questions and read all answer choices in their entirety. And try to answer as best as you can without returning to the passage. If you actively read the passage, often your gut will point at the correct answer, even if you're not entirely certain why. If you do need to return to the passage, first look at the words that you scribbled down for each paragraph. This is why it's important to do this. You want to determine quickly which paragraph may contain the information related to the question. This will save you time because you won't have to reread the entire passage. And with that, let's go ahead and summarize this lecture on the overview of reading comprehension problems with the key points. First, reading comprehension requires the difficult task of focusing only on the passage and nothing else. To do well, you need to be mindful and pretend to enjoy what you're reading even if you hate it. Second, pay attention to key words that signal a relationship in the passage. Especially watch out for words that express an opinion, the author's opinion. And third, in order to do well, you must read quickly. But do not sacrifice your understanding of the passage in order to get it done sooner. Spending an extra 2 to 3 minutes on a passage and spending a few seconds scribbling down a couple of words that summarizes each paragraph will save you more time in the long run. This concludes the Subeezy lecture. Thanks for watching, and be sure to do the practice problems.